this episode of History Saver 1941, we have moved to the unfinished railroad cut on the first day battlefield here in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. But on the morning of July the 1st, 1863, you had the Confederates moving in from this direction that you see in front of me. Also in front of me, where this tree line is the unfinished railroad cut. It has ties to Thaddeus Stevens. And I encourage you to look up the history of that. It's too long and lengthy to get into here. But this is the unfinished railroad cut commissioned by Thaddeus Stevens. And if you come here today, well, the railroad cut is finished. But on the morning of July 1st, 1863, as the Confederates are pushing in this way, they're going to be in this railroad cut. And they're going to drive Union infantry that's in this area out. Well, the Union infantry is going to come back in this area and counterattack. So let's go and talk a little bit about what happens across the road over here in the unfinished railroad cut on the morning of July the 1st, 1863. So as with any good battlefield, you've got some literature here. The railroad cut that is visible in front of us was the scene of dramatic engagement on the first day of the battle. On the morning of July the 1st, a Confederate attack crushed the Union line here, sending the surviving Federals streaming back towards Gettysburg, which is right there. Shortly after Union units counterattacked, they forced a number of the Southerners to take cover in the railroad cut right in front of us. Despite deadly Confederate fire from the cut, Union infantry led by Lieutenant Colonel Rufus Dawes and Colonel Edward Fowler crossed a turnpike over the fence and charged this railroad cut, shouting, "Throw down your muskets," and probably a lot of other stuff that we can't say here on the channel. And they end up capturing 230 of the Confederates that were trapped in this cut. But there was also a lot of those Confederates killed. And we'll talk a little bit about, when we go down here, why it was such a deadly task for the Union Army and an incredible feat for them to actually be able to achieve. So we're making our way down to the railroad cut now itself. And I want to give you a peek inside, and we're going to talk about why this was such an incredible feat. So the Union was in this area. They were driven back. The Confederates used this cut. And of course, it's a railroad cut with high banks. What are they going to do? They're going to use this thing that you see in front of me for cover. So you can see the pike right behind us here. And on the morning of July the 1st, the Confederates are going to be in this railroad cut. Union forces back to the town of Gettysburg, which is just right up here. And what's going to end up happening is Union elements, especially some Wisconsin men, are going to come in this area, and they're going to do a counterattack on the Confederates that are in this cut. And they're going to be able to drive these men out. Now, even though this railroad cut has very steep banks, as you can see here, and it offers good cover and concealment, the only problem is you're trapped. So when the Union counterattacked, despite deadly Confederate fire in this area on the second wave of this thing, as the Confederates are inside of this railroad cut, the Confederates are going to get trapped in this cut and unable to get out. It's hard enough for me to get in this cut as it is. So as we walk in here, you can kind of get an idea of the terrain and to lay out the Confederate troops that were trapped in this cut and countered. You got Union forces attacking over this pike right in front of us, climbing over the fence, charging this position, yelling, "Throw down your muskets, throw down your guns," and probably a lot of other obscene stuff, like I said, we can't say on the channel. And they're going to capture a lot of them after also taking the life of several of them. So this is a pretty cool spot here in Gettysburg that's not as visited as much as some of the other places, but play this scene as some of the most vicious fighting on July the 1st, 1863, before the Union retreat into town. And I'll tell you, it is cool to be in this railroad cut, but if you come here, it is very chippy, I guess is the word of the rocks. I don't know, it's a weird consistency. All right, so we're gonna continue our trek here in Gettysburg. So until the next episode, keep preserving history, stay safe. We'll see you on the next one from here in Gettysburg.